When someone important to us is gone, guilt often sneaks in, and we might think, I should have done more, and what if I'd made a different decision? And sometimes these thoughts spiral into very detailed scenarios we keep thinking about. Like, what if I'd visited more often? They would have felt less lonely. And if only I'd been with them the moment they passed, I could have made their last moments happier. What if I had chosen a different treatment for them? Maybe they would still be here. And guilt can be very part of grief, and I know it very well from my own experience. And here it's important to differentiate between guilt and regret. Regret is a feeling of wishing the situation had been different in general, that things had been different, that we had had a different relationship, that the world had been different, and so on. And guilt makes us feel we did something wrong, that we did some harm. And sometimes it's true, and sometimes it's what we believe, what happened. And guilt often has this layer of judgment and self-blame. I have a video on regret, and please check it out if you're interested. And in this one, we'll talk about guilt. What's important to know is that guilt often reflects unmet needs and deeper feelings, like the need for connection, the need for clarity, closure, and forgiveness, the need for self-compassion and understanding, the need to make amends, the need for validation, the need to grieve fully. And we'll talk about it in more detail today. Now let's go back to this what if and if only thinking. This way of thinking assumes that the past was more predictable and controllable than it actually was. Many of us replay certain situations, pick out little details and imagine possible alternative scenarios. But ask yourself, could I really have known how things would turn out? Was my intention to harm and hurt? Was the outcome truly within my control? And in many cases, we realize that the reality is way more complex than that one thing that we didn't do or could have done. And that leads us to a very common feeling that may hide behind the guilt, the feeling of helplessness. My psychotherapist told me years ago, when I was consumed with my own guilt, guilt is easier to carry than helplessness. And that stuck with me. When we lose someone, especially after a long illness, during their final days, or when their death is sudden, we may feel that there was something we could have changed to prevent that, and we feel guilty we didn't. And in this situation, guilt can become an emotional reaction that masks a deeper truth. We were helpless. The things were uncertain and unpredictable. And it's pretty hard to accept. Guilt gives us the illusion of control and feels more active. We can pick something, focus on it, and we can trick ourselves into believing that making this specific thing could have changed the situation. And this can feel easier than helplessness, because helplessness brings up feelings of inadequacy and painful truth that in many cases things are out of our control. In many things we cannot control: illness, accidents, time, and ways the things unfold. And another thing, sometimes we hold on to guilt because it feels like a way to stay connected to the person we lost, as if letting go of guilt would mean letting go of them. But releasing guilt doesn't mean forgetting or moving on. It also doesn't mean we excuse our mistakes, if there were any. It means we create space for love, healing, and new ways to behave, new ways to connect with them and honor them. So how can we work with guilt? Everything starts with acceptance, and think about things you could control and you couldn't control. So you can write down the things you objectively could control back then and your limitation at the time. Maybe it's stress, new work, distance, your other responsibilities. And this will help you to see the situation more clearly and realize that you did the best you could given the circumstances. Then it's helpful to shift focus to what you did right, because it's very easy to focus on what we did wrong or believe we did wrong. Instead, we can think of the moments we shared love, care, and connection with the person we lost. Think about the times you showed up for them, you were there for them, because these moments matter more than you can imagine. And next, make amends where possible, because sometimes we mess up and we want to behave differently, we want to apologize. And this is possible even if the person is no longer with us. We can channel guilt into meaningful actions. We can volunteer for the cause they cared about. We can contribute to the charity. We can continue their traditions or create new ones. And we can also nurture our relationships that are still there and channel the love, commitment, and care we feel guilty for not giving our person into our current connections. So we can give our love and care for those who need it most. And then practice self-compassion and self-forgiveness, because no one is perfect. Relationships can be very messy and the life can be very complex. And even if we did some mistakes, those mistakes don't define our entire relationship with them. It can be part of it, but it's not the entire relationship. So if you'd like to ask for forgiveness or to express your feelings, you may want to write a letter to them or imagine their voice and imagine what would they tell you, what would they answer if you shared your guilt with them. And again, you don't have to hold on to guilt to stay connected to your person. Instead, we can create new methods to stay connected and to honor them. So we can write about our memories, we can journal and say whatever we want to say, the words of love and gratitude and concerns maybe. We can share stories about them with friends and family. We can visit meaningful places. We can create a memory spot and keep some memorable objects of them. We can continue traditions and rituals that were important to them. And we can also try to live our life in accordance with values they had if we find them meaningful and important to us. And at any moment when you need it, seek support. Talk to a therapist, a grief coach, join a grief group. It can offer you the sense of validation and you can find new perspectives and learn tools how to cope with your guilt. I also host a free online grief session, and if that feels right for you, please check out the details and you're welcome to join anytime. Remember, guilt is a very, very natural part of grief, and it can teach you a lot about your feelings for this person, your relationship with them, about yourself and your values. So it can be really beneficial to look into it. And letting go of guilt doesn't matter we forget them or let go of them. It means we make space for love, for connection, for peace, and new ways to honor them. Thank you for watching. Be kind to yourself and take this journey one step at a time.